Good evening, everybody. Sunny Puzikas here, joining you on a not so regular episode number 24 of Let Us Attend from Gospel of Violence podcast. If you guys could let me know if audio is good, because we had some problems in the last few episodes. Bill, how you doing, sir? Hello, sir. Josh DeWalt. Yeah, guys, if you can let me know if audio is good, I'll go very, very quickly over. Clem, how you doing, brother? I'll go very quickly over some of our sponsors, and then we will be bringing our special guest, who's waiting behind the stage, so to speak, Gary Marr, my good old friend, my colleague. Uh, it's funny because to find to find yourself in kind of like extreme minority about certain views, uh, and those are the views that we're going to be discussing today with Gary. Once I bring them on, so we definitely in a very unpopular minority, but this is not the first time for neither myself or Gary to be in such a position. So I think we quite friggin' fine with that. Doug says it was good, but not so much now. Okay, well, let me do this very, very quickly. Don't go anywhere as you all coming in, because I'll be back in exactly 15 seconds. All right. Well, I am back. Hopefully, it got better. You guys let me know. Meanwhile, of course, sponsors. Uh, they are pretty regular up here as far as the sponsors. First, foremost, not really judging who's more important or what, but going alphabetically. Ammo Supply Warehouse. For those who want good quality freedom seats and good service, this is where you go. This is where you get it. AmmoSupplyWarehouse.com. And you know what freedom seats are. And this is the place. This is the place. Uh, Interestingly enough, Ammo Supply Warehouse is sponsored not only for my online activities as far as the live streams, but also for Gary's. So it's like a double thing going on here. All right, go support them. Go get your freedom seats from AmmoSupplyWarehouse.com. Uh, Second, of course, would be my dear wife with Ford Honey Badger body sprays. Later on, I will put on some QR codes where you can order things, but we'll do that as we run. Or if you're not too lazy, you can go to my website, sunnypuzikas.com, and you'll find Ford Honey Badger body sprays there. And also, our third sponsor is Iron Pig Armament. The word armament probably tells you what you need to know as far as what they do. They do quality stuff. According to my son, this was the first time that he saw me smile while I was handling AR-15, and that AR-15 was from Iron Pig Armament. And I'm a proud owner of one, and you should be too. With all that said, with all that said, uh, let me bring in our guest, my dear friend, all the way from great state of Pennsylvania, Gary Marr. Gary, how you doing, brother?
I am doing well. Hello, everyone out there in the internet land.
All right, so I know that a lot of people probably were thinking that, well, if Sonny and Gary are talking, it's probably going to be some controversies about training and shooty things, but we made contact a few days ago and we go like, you know what, those controversies are kind of old and boring and everybody knows about them. And Gary was kind of going a little bit of a scorched earth lately
Well,
on his
a little
soon to
bit.
be deleted private page on the Facebook, right? And believe it or not, Gary, I saved most of your memes that you posted. I'm like, some of them are money, some of them are absolute money. I mean,
I
it
stole them
pushes
all.
the
So
limits, but yeah.
I
How
never
you
do
been,
anything
my man?
half-assed.
You've been busy?
Yep. Been busy doing a bunch of construction work, building a new shop out here at behind my house. That's been eating up most of my time. So nothing cool and high speed, saws and hammers and tools I don't understand. But I watch all the YouTube videos and then I put wood together.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Well, today we're going to be talking about what's going on with our country, uh, and it is related to events, and they're not new events, obviously, in the Middle East, but lately, quite obviously, it has escalated quite a bit, and it brought interesting things to the surface, right? So, Gary, let me ask you, what have you observed? Like, because both me and you will kind of swim in similar circles. Most of our friends are not some kind of extreme lefties or whatnot. Most of our friends are pro Second Amendment.
Yep.
They will categorize themselves as American patriots. Uh,
Yeah.
Absolute majority of them, did not believe many things that media told them all the way back to 2015, 2016 elections and Russian meddling and interference. Significant portion of those guys did not buy into the whole pandemic BS, right?
Right.
Little bit smaller, well, significantly smaller percentage uh, didn't buy into the Western media's presentation of what's going on with Ukraine. And then we fast forward to very recent days, right?
Yeah. To the
With the
last
events
couple weeks.
Yeah, with the events in the Middle East, specifically as it relates, and we will touch back upon, let's say, things in Gaza and things of that nature. But mainly, this all kind of floated up onto the surface because of the conflict between State of Israel and Iran, right?
Yep.
And suddenly we saw myself and Gary, and yeah, we're not the only ones, but we are definitely in a very significant minority, like substantial, like palpable. You feel like what a minority you are, right?
Yep. Very much.
What do you think? Not that it really is important, but I think actually it is important because if people waving American flag and they proclaim their allegiance and America first and voted for Donald Trump and celebrating the whole thing of things being reversed with the, DI bullshit and inclusion and all that stuff, right? And economic changes and be it tariffs, be it taxes, be it whatever other things, be it border control, right? But then when it comes to where US of A finds itself when it comes to conflicts that state of Israel is involved with, suddenly agenda is being bought without any kind of examination and the hook, the line, the sinker, the boat, and the whole freaking marina.
Yep.
What do you attribute that to, Gary?
Well, I think, and I hate to say this because I don't want to belittle the people that generally, I don't want to say follow me, but pay attention to what I talk about. but a lot of them have a lot of pro-war bluster. So it was easy for, I think, a lot of them to get wrapped into, hey, we're gonna go fucking bomb the shit out of some sand people again and show them that we're number one. I think that was a big thing. No critical thinking, just American dominance, and we'll show them, fill in the blanks, which in this case is, the Persians.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. And it's not a very complimentary to the folks that think that way. That kind of fake alpha male mindset that they like to throw around. But I think that's a large one that nobody really talks about.
Okay. Earlier when we talked, when we were checking our connection, the other one that I think is probably not necessarily in our circles, but to a certain degree it is the evangelical Christians. There's within the evangelical circles, there's very pronounced unconditional support for the state of Israel, because most evangelical Christians conflate modern state of Israel with the biblical Israel.
Yeah.
For them, it's one and the same. While I know you're not religious or person of faith or whatnot, but me being one of them, if you read the book and not just the book, many other things, it actually very clearly states the separation. What is biblical Israel? And it has absolutely none to do with the modern state of Israel. None, zip, zilch. Yet in evangelical circles, you don't question that. You just don't question that, because it's pretty much, if you don't support modern state of Israel, how dare you call yourself a Christian? And I kind of go like, have you guys read the Talmud? Have you guys been watching what modern state of Israel is doing to people?
As a far from an expert in that, from my, I'm going to call it an outsider point of view,
Yeah.
It baffled me. And I was like, well, maybe there's just, shit I don't know, because that makes no sense to me, just looking with reason and, what little logic I can muster up. I do know that I watched that little clip between, was it Tucker Carlson and Cruz?
Ted Cruz, yeah.
And he said that, it says that you have to basically blindly support Israel. And I was like, where the fuck does it say that? Quick Google search. It was in Numbers. Hey, I got a Bible on the wall. I pulled it off and was like, man, I'm not getting the same message that he's getting from that. But I don't study the book. So, I was like, well, maybe that's just going over my head. And I'll try not to address that, because I don't consider myself to be, scholarly when it comes to things biblical.
Yeah. No, it's fair, you know what I mean? But I certainly don't think of myself as a scholar, but, I read the book. I had a number of conversations with people from, separate different denominations within Christianity, and the difference is stark, like stark. You especially when you talk to Orthodox Christians, it's unequivocally separation of modern state of Israel from biblical Israel. You talk to even Roman Catholics, which I'm not a big fan of Vatican in any way, shape, or form, but biblically speaking, they hold very similar views as far as modern state of Israel versus Israel of the book, and certainly Israelites of the Old Testament. But then, man, as soon as you jump into newer denominations of Protestants and Baptists, the modern Christianity, the evangelicals, especially here in America, it's like 180-degree reversal. 180-degree reversal. Suddenly, the Christians that say, that they read the commandments and all that stuff, they celebrating wholesale bombings, they celebrating all that shit, and you kind of go like, dude, that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I get it, Yes, a lot of Americans, like you said, don't have, love relationship with people of the sand, right?
Yep.
But that does not prevent us from having some kind of a freaking moral compass, right? And look at things and you go like, dude, this is wrong. This is fucking wrong. We don't have to like those people over there in Iran or Gaza or whatnot. And for the most part, I'm certainly not a fan of the government and ayatollahs in freaking Iran or whatnot. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I really start questioning, you know, how much Christ is in your Christianity if you talk that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I am often disappointed by folks that claim to be very Christian. Um, and this particular instance is no different for most of them. That I'm like, well, in my head the gears go, well, that doesn't sound very Christian. When you're saying that, I hope Israel turns more, more to the point I usually hear at this point. I hope we turn Iran into a sheet of glass. And I was like, oh, I don't really, I don't care for basically the whole Islamic anything that runs Iran, and I'm not asking to turn them into a sheet of glass. So, man, you guys don't seem very Christian. But I shrug it off because, again, as a not very religious person myself, I don't feel it's my place to question their their faith and how much they practice it.
Yeah.
So I kind of let it just kind of slide off. But, again, from the outsider's point of view, it's not winning me over to them when they when they do that.
I hear you, man. I really hear you. Um, so, what were your initial thoughts? When did you think, when the things were escalating, when the so-called 12-day war started with Israel bombing Iran while we were supposedly still in negotiations with them about the whole, no nuclear weapon. What was your first thought as far as will we get involved?
Well, my first thought was we're not getting involved. Our fucking president campaigned on no new wars, no current wars. I was like, we finally have someone who's not playing this fucking game. So I was like, we got this. Uh, like he's I don't know if he can pull off making it end because he's shown some ability to make that happen. So I was like,
Yeah,
maybe, but I like we're not getting involved. Like, every president before now, yeah, absolutely, we'd already been there. There were Marines, storming the beaches of Iran. I know Iran doesn't really have any beaches, but you get the idea.
yeah,
And so I was pretty confident that we were going to focus on the problems we have here that were promised to be fixed in the campaign season. So I was like, yep, he's got bigger fish to fry. So I didn't think we were in danger of getting pulled into it.
yeah. How disappointing was it as someone who, you know, I'm assuming, and I'm not. You don't have to say yay or nay or whatnot, but I'm assuming if you voted, I'm assuming you did vote for Donald Trump, right?
I did vote for Donald Trump, and I generally don't vote for any Republicans or Democrats. I usually vote third party with my conscience. And this time, I said there are people I think would be a better president, but this guy's got a chance of winning, and I think he'll be good. So I'm gonna push my normal prejudices aside and go ahead and vote for somebody that's one of those two parties. So I committed more than I would say most people do. I mean, I switched. I can't say like official affiliation, but I generally don't vote for the Uniparty, and
Yeah,
I opted to for him. So I really felt like I was sold a false bill of goods and stabbed. I don't want to say necessarily in the back, but maybe the side.
yeah. Well, you are in the same camp with my bride, with Megan, because she was never a fan of both of major parties, but with Trump, it was like it was genuine hope that
Yep.
maybe at least for 4 years, we're gonna put a little bit of a stopgap time frame with this, absolute insanity where this country was heading. And a big part of it would be, let's not get involved in that which is none of our business. Certainly, let's not get pulled into shit that's started by other people, right? And so I can see how, me not being born here, maybe it's not so much, but still, but I can see how for so to speak, true Native Americans that are born here, this may feel like a fucking betrayal
Yeah,
because
that's
it
what I
is,
felt. Yep.
you know. And somewhere in the very distant corner of my mind, I go like, is there a very very slight possibility that Trump is such a good hustler that all of this is a hustle, and somehow he's gonna be like instrumental in getting rid of Netanyahu or whatever the fuck gonna happen with Israeli internal politics. But then when you look at Israeli politics, who replaces one prime minister to another, and you go like, what is the difference? It's like replacing Joe Biden with Kamala Harris and replacing Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton. What
Yeah.
is the fucking difference? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but I'm certainly not going to be beholden by that hope that Trump is playing some kind of a, like my wife said, 4D chess. I would pray and I would be very happy if I'm wrong. I,
Yeah.
I would
I hope to be wrong entirely. I hope he duped me as much as he duped everybody else in whatever 4D thing he's doing. But I saw his 4D chess and the last time he was the president, and it wasn't some QAnon or whatever you pronounce that
yeah,
fucking thing. It was just a guy who was an outsider. That was it. It was very very simple to see where it was coming from. It was not
yeah,
7 levels deep.
yeah, and like listening to things the way it was presented right after the strikes, the whatever they call them, the nuclear facilities in Iran, the way he was talking about it, I was like, dude, Megan brought up interesting points. She goes like, if you want to help somebody like Bibi Netanyahu not to go to court and potentially be convicted in Israel, which I doubt it will happen even if he does go there. But, most PR companies would tell Donald Trump, do not bring up his name. Yet there goes
Yep.
Donald Trump on his social media proclaiming Bibi Netanyahu to be war hero and absolutely brilliant leader and all that. And you kind of go like, damn, are we that beholden? Like in one of those memes that you post, and is draining the swamp really means
Yeah.
sucking,
Yeah.
that,
It
you know?
was. I was a little baffled by the amount of cheerleading that he was giving him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It
And
wasn't. But I mean, I get it. He's a diplomat. He's got to say nice things about his allies, and I'm going to throw allies out there in a quote because I don't believe that in a heartbeat. But uh, there is a professional way to just be like, oh, things are progressing well with the leadership in Israel, and kind of leave it, with that type of verbiage versus he's a war hero. Our motherfucker ain't ever picked up anything but a pen and a fucking slice of pizza. Like he is far from a war hero.
yeah, well, and it's not necessary that I would agree very often with any fucking Western Europeans, but some people would say, and I would say that to some degree that they have a pretty damn strong point that he's more like a war criminal.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I know it's a whole separate issue that riles people up even further. But when you look at what's being done in Gaza, dude, I don't know. I don't know. You kind of look at it, you go like, dude, So comparison, right? You look at unjustified and unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine. right? Unjustified and unprovoked. That, I'm not gonna go into any depth of explaining that, but let's just leave it to the way media presents, right? We're looking at numbers of people killed and all that, right? By Ukraine's own admission, as far as number of civilians killed, it's somewhere in the area of 13,000 civilians. So that's been 3 years plus on the war that much bigger than Gaza,
Right.
much bigger than Gaza, right? But then you look at numbers of people killed in Gaza, and you can say that the Palestinian sources are exaggerating and all that shit. But even by some very outsider sources, when you look at numbers of 30 to 40,000 civilians in the area that was only less than 3 million people versus 40 some million people in Ukraine, you kind of go like, do we have different metrics?
Well, I certainly believe we have different standards, because that's not. It's on purpose. Like there's no, this isn't World War II, or like we didn't know how to get the Germans short of just firebombing Dresden. Okay, we had airplanes with a compass, and we just dropped bombs out a hole in the bottom. Got it. A lot of innocent people get killed. It's in 2025. If you kill 30,000 civilians in an area that small, it isn't because you didn't have any better way to do it. I just that's not believable to me in the least bit that those are accidental or
Collateral damage.
collateral damage. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's, at some point, while ago, I was kind of like thinking, if I speak about shit like that, people will accuse me that I support Hamas or say that I'm pro-Palestinian. And next thing you know, there's going to be a Palestinian flag here behind me. I really no longer give a shit about it, what people will think. Because, when you look at shit going on there, and it's not like it's a freaking new event. It's not like it's something that started happening with October 7th events. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's been going on for very long time. And it's interesting because in American social media space, right, you're not going to find many links or many references to quite a few documentaries available out there about Netanyahu, Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, who's not even, the real name is not even Netanyahu. He's actually, his family hails from Poland and they are Polish. You know, when you look at most of the rabbis that are his spiritual advisors and basically spiritual guides, when you look where they hailed from, one of the main ones actually comes from my homeland, from Lithuania.
Oh,
Yeah, funny that, right? And then you look at some resources like, the documentary about Bibi Netanyahu, about his past and involvement in dark, shady shit, right? It's almost impossible to find. There are no references. Links are buried all over the place. You look at some documentaries produced by some French independent journalists and other things about settlers, and what they doing and what they saying about what they think should happen. And then Netanyahu's talk with some of those settlers that was not meant to become public, but it did become public. You really start thinking, and you're going like, there's almost like this parallel universe of real events and real motivations happening that Western public is being intentionally shielded from, for them not to know. What's the reason behind it?
well,
What's the reason behind it?
I think the reason is pretty obvious. People here get elected, and if we don't know that something's amiss, we're not, the politicians are not in danger of getting unelected because we're upset about it. I truly believe that there are hundreds and hundreds of decision makers in Washington, D.C., aka most of Congress and the White House, that are in the pocket of Israel, but their number one priority is to remain in power. So it doesn't matter if Israel's given them $2 million for their campaign if they lose. So I truly believe that those kind of things are being shielded so that politicians can still basically steal from you and me and give that money to the state of Israel, uh, with a small amount of that returned back to them in the form of, kickbacks and contributions.
Contributions.
Uh, but the priority still for them needs to be, they got to stay in office in order to make all that happen. So in order to get those checks from Israel, they have to keep winning elections. So when they support Israel, they can't let everything, they can't let us peons see everything that where our money is going. So I think it's definitely on purpose that it's being shielded from us to avoid any political fallout over here.
But do you think that eventually people will start figuring this shit out? Because there are still voices that, at least for now, are still, you can still hear them. There's not that many,
You
but you can
can, and
still
I
hear
think
some
it'll
of those
get.
voices.
It's getting harder for them to hide things because this isn't 1980 anymore, and only NBC and CBS broadcast things. Most people I know don't even watch those anymore. They get everything, from the device that everybody's watching us on right now, and we all
Yeah.
can publish to that. So it's harder to keep a lid on it when there's just a bunch of people with cell phones in their hand every day that can start getting the message out. So while it's very grassroots and comes out in little bits here and there, uh, I think it will be harder and harder for them to keep the lid on it because it's not just 3 or 4 places of a bottleneck of information anymore.
And on the other hand, I'm thinking, because a lot of pro Israel people, pro modern state of Israel people, I mean, they will say that Israel has to do what Israel has to do because Arab nations, including, although Iran is not really Arab nation, that's a separate discussion, right? And Palestinians and many other, movements there, they've been saying, they've been calling for elimination of state of Israel, you know, from the river to the sea, all these things. And they say, Israel being a small country with a relatively small population, they are surrounded by enemies, and they will refer back to the wars in the 60s and 70s that happened between Arabs and Israel as a proof that they're trying to get rid of state of Israel, and I think a lot of people, they buy into it very, very easily because they don't go any further in history and they don't look for, again, not very popular views about the whole thing, how the state of Israel was established, what role in that very powerful and very revered in the West people like Winston Churchill played, and on and on, and it's it's almost like we live partially, I think we live under the ghost of the Jewish
Mm-hmm.
Holocaust during the World War II. And, it's unthinkable to criticize almost anything that modern state of Israel does due to how the history has painted what happened during World War II, how it was initiated, how it was executed, the numbers that were killed, and on and on and on. All of that can be examined and questioned, by the way. At least we should be able to do it in the country that proclaims the First
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Amendment as one of the cornerstones of the country, of our society, of our system, right? But anytime you try to question it like that, you are instantly, anti-Semitic, and you want all Jews to die, and you are basically equivalent of
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler. And it's kind of like, are you freaking serious?
I don't know where it comes from, but it seems like people have a lot of, I'm going to call it Western guilt. Like, well, my grandparents, you know, they allowed that to happen. You know, it happened on their watch, so I have to still feel guilty over it. I don't feel guilty for shit that my grandparents' generation did. And then when I have these discussions with folks, I'm like, you do realize that's the generation that fucking liberated everybody under the yoke of Nazism. Like, you can't blame the Allies for anything that happened to the Jewish population in the 30s and 40s. They got off their ass eventually and fixed it. So this whole we owe them everything forever. I mean, that might be a whole different discussion if you're Germany, but it shouldn't be a fucking discussion for us.
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't understand it. I have a no qualm whatsoever with anybody that's Jewish, but people will conflate my disdain for the state of Israel as I hate Jews. I was like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's somehow they conflate those as the same thing, and then also pile on this guilt of we must do more to help every Jew who was persecuted 3 generations ago. And to do that, it means we have to help modern day Israel. And I was like, wow, you're connecting a lot of dots here that aren't connectable.
Yeah, because we can look at a lot of genocides throughout the history, right? We can look at genocides of Armenians by the Ottoman Turks. We can look at the genocide of how many genocides we have had in Africa?
Countless.
Right? How many, you know what? I mean, the Russians don't do that, but they could say that they've been genocided in World War II to a larger degree than any other entity.
Yeah.
Should the Russians for the next 200 years have special rights? And if you say anything that Russian vodka is not as good as Polish vodka, you are anti-Russian and you should be fucking taken off of social media? Or it's ridiculous. It's preposterous. You know what I mean? But we do live with that, and it's a reality. And now we have political leaders that are openly saying that if you say something against modern state of Israel, that makes you anti-Semite. And even if you have papers, they may take those papers away.
Yeah, I read that yesterday and was like, what the fuck? There's a reason, obviously we're big Second Amendment guys. And probably everyone watching here is also a big Second Amendment fella. And it still falls below the First Amendment. Like, they didn't put that above it because it's that important to be able to speak freely. And the idea that you're like, hey, we made you a citizen, but now we're going to scratch all that and kick you out of here because you chose to speak. And then to find out it's about speaking negatively about what I would call a hostile nation. It's ludicrous.
Yeah. It is. It is absolutely ludicrous. And looking at that, like Megan here posted, she goes like, Palestinians were not guilty of what happened in Germany. Yet they claim the Germans did to them, gives them an excuse to punish Palestine. It's in not a direct way. It's almost looks that way. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, some dude who's been butt raped by his stepfather for 20 years, and then in court, his most likely Jewish lawyer says that because of that happened to him, you all should understand why he slowly murdered these 6 kids.
Yeah, and
he had a reason.
And the answer is no.
It's justifiable. No, it's not. So it's, mentality is so interesting and it's so twisted, man, that it's you kind of go like, I really don't, you wish that that people, especially in our circles, right, would use less emotion and more logic, and see things without being beholden by this idea or that idea. But it doesn't seem to be the
Yeah.
case. It does not seem to be the case. So yeah, I've me and Megan, we were talking about it. She goes like, "Yeah, you're probably gonna be catching some additional heat after this," and I'm like, I really don't think that me and Gary care so much about additional
Nope.
heat. We're not quite that sensitive about temperature changes. So, what are your views now? Because there's some debate going on. Because of course our administration and all that, they claim that they absolutely obliterated Iran's ability to manufacture a nuclear weapon. Some people are saying that, well, it's only probably delayed it by a couple of months. I'm trying to think, like, if I was Iranian, looking around the world, what do we see? Is anybody directly has balls to send bombers into a territory of Russian Federation and drop bombs? Nope. Has anybody sent bombers into North Korea to bomb their
No.
installations?
You could probably do that in a paper cup.
No. Yeah. What is one factor that everybody goes like, this is, as far as risk versus benefit, this is not worth doing? And that factor is that those countries do possess nuclear
Yep.
weapons. So if I was Iranian, I'm looking at it and I go like, with the modern technology and the air power that both Israel and US possess, eventually they'll be able to overwhelm just about any air defenses or whatnot. What is the only thing that I can have that will prevent them, or at least really make them think very, very hard before next time they come up with the story that I'm creating this super dildo that, ethnically chooses only citizens of state of Israel to rape, and they decide to bomb it because I have these, things. What would be one thing that I would want to have to prevent it from
Nukes.
happening?
I mean, there's 200 and some countries out there. They all want them. Like, they all want them. Fucking Rwanda wants nukes. They're not close to it, but they want
Can
them.
we blame
No,
them?
like, we got there first and went, man, it's fucking nice having these. It worked for us. I can't see why anyone wouldn't want them. And the thing is, the cat's out of the bag. It's not like there aren't thousands of people in Iran who know how to make a nuke. I could fucking look it up on the internet. So
Yeah.
there comes a point with how far are you willing to go to just keep delaying somebody from getting something. And that's not discounting the fact that, like, North Korea could just give them to them. Or Pakistan.
Or Pakistan. Yeah.
They could drive them over. So I don't get the like what the goal is at the end. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're like, hey, this is where we win and we get the championship belt, and they never get a nuke forever. I don't see that where that comes into play. So it's just a matter of delaying it for some amount of time. And then the question is the delay worth everything you're willing to do to get the delay? If you delayed it by 3 years, which is a weird number because that's the one that our director of national intelligence said last month they weren't any closer than 3 years to getting one. But anyway, if you delayed it by 3 years, what do you have to do to get 3 years of time? Is it worth whatever the cost is? Is a ground war worth buying a couple extra years of time? I don't think it is, but I'm sure that there's a bunch of folks in Washington and in the military industrial complex like, hell yes, a ground war would be great. But
Yeah. None of their sons will go to that ground
exactly.
war.
It'll be ours.
Because if I was a betting man, and I'm not, I would say that Iran will have a functioning nuclear weapon relatively soon. When I say relatively soon, they actually may be strategic about it and wait until towards the end of Donald Trump's term.
Yep.
To test it, to make it public,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. And I wouldn't be surprised that by the time they test it, they're going to have 20 or 30 or 50 warheads ready to go. And then immediately after they test it, they're going to go like, look, after what happened back in 2025, this is our only recourse to prevent it from happening again. This is not to threaten anybody. This is not to do this or that, but this is our only hammer that we can have to discourage shit that happened back in 2025. And again, as a logical person, again, I don't have any love for Shia, freaking Ayatollahs there. None whatsoever. But again, like you were saying, we're looking at the country of 90 million plus people. We're looking at the country with incredible amount of natural resources, incredible amount of brain power. And you kind of go like, mm, you know, after the Iran-Iraq war, the only problems that Iran was dealing with was directly related to two countries, Israel and US of A. That's it. And a lot of our American compatriots, they go like, look how many Americans Iran has killed. And they will say, the Lebanon, the Beirut Marine Barracks. They will say Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia and all these things. And I'm kind of like looking here, not being very good in geography and all that stuff. And I go like, all of these places are very close to Iran and none of them are close to our fucking borders, by the way. Like hint, hint. And then it's interesting how we forget how one of the U.S. Navy ships shot down Iranian passenger plane with 300 plus civilians on board.
Yep.
That is not mentioned.
Yeah, that rarely comes up.
And
They, side story to that. I was on that ship a couple of different times, and they absolutely have the plane painted on the side of the ship as a kill.
Yeah. And, talking about comments, here's one gentleman posting on Facebook saying Israel should send Mossad to assassinate the Iranian leader. Well, that's a great fucking plan. Because that's definitely not going to solidify the Iranian people behind the thought and behind the screams, death to America and death to Israel. It's definitely going to make them love Israel and America. It's definitely there thousands of nuclear scientists will turn around and going to go like, no, we're going to start making popsicles instead of fucking nuclear weapons. It's definitely going to work that way. This is one of those guys that you were saying at the beginning, you know what I mean? Former military, wants to wave the flag and wants to swing big American balls of power, influence, and we can do what we want because we are the biggest kid on the block. And it's funny, dude. It's actually not funny. It's actually sad.
Yeah, because those people who are saying that are not going to be the first people to volunteer to go fight.
No. Most of these people that are saying that, for one, they are too old to go fight again.
Yeah.
They certainly are not in shape or condition to go fight. But it's almost like they they need to show that manhood, that American male aggression through social media posts and opinions about geopolitics, like fuck these people in the sand countries, who cares? Make the whole country into a fucking glass parking lot, nuke them all, assassinate this, do that. And I go like, let me remind you of something. By the time the chickens come to roost, you, sir, probably gonna be old, so old that you're not gonna care, or dead. Now, your children and grandchildren, they may have to eat out of that cup when those chickens come back
Yep.
to roost. You know, and you kind of go like, the sometime, although significantly lower, but still some remaining level of American testosterone overcomes any fucking logic.
Yeah.
Any, any logic.
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed completely.
and for us, for both me and you, it's kind of funny because within our circles, we certainly have. There is no shortage of people that think like that.
Oh,
And I'll bet, a lot of public relations people and business advisors, they would pull me and you into the office and they would go like, are you guys stupid? Do you realize that some of your students and potential clients will never gonna look at your material because of what you guys are saying? And me and Gary probably would look at each other and go like, if people cannot handle logos, common sense, and even if we are wrong, a adult level of debate, I don't think I fucking want it
yeah.
in my
I'm not
class.
the instructor for them.
No, no. So yeah, so I guess we are, in that sense, we are not the most prolific and adaptable businessman as far as
Nope.
sucking up to
Nope.
the winds of changes, and going like, oh, Israel is popular now. Let's suck a little bit of of this, and that way we're gonna get more pro-Israel folks coming in from evangelical churches and taking Kalashnikov
Yeah.
classes, right? Uh, yeah, right. Not gonna fucking happen. We know that, right? How do you find, Gary, like people that do train with you on a regular basis versus people that you interact, through internet, or the ones that telling you that they will train with you or whatnot? Do you find percentages of people differ as far as people that are, without any examination, without any reflection, they do suck that schlong?
um, I would say the ones that train with me regularly, um, for the most part, if they at least cared enough to vocalize their disagreement with me, uh, they ask questions and then they're like, "Oh, there's something I didn't know," or they say to me, "Did you know this?" And it doesn't ever happen on social media. It happens, on the idiot screen over here. But they reach out, and then we have the debate, like like we're doing right now, and they want to talk about like, help me see your perspective. And then the people who
Yeah.
say, I got to come out and train with you, those people just pick a fucking they planted their flag in the sand and they're just like, well, now I'm not coming to train with you. I'm like, well, I've been doing this for a while and I haven't seen you yet, so I wasn't too concerned. So but yeah, it's definitely a different outlook between the regulars and the folks from the interweb gun community in general.
I was sometimes, I was telling Megan on a couple occasions, I'm like, I'm really finding like direct correlation, and it sounds very discriminatory, direct correlation in general intelligence between people that train in things that we teach, directly participate in those things, And then when I look at other things, how they looked at other events throughout, let's say, recent 10-year history,
Yep.
right? When you look at people that bought the Russian collusion, that bought this, that uh, have the jab and another 6 boosters, and what I mean. And then sometimes it gets even more funny. Well, looks like we may have a little bit of a connection issue, but I think it should be reconnecting right now, so hopefully it's good. Let's see here. Hey guys, let us know if the connection is back to normal and you can hear us. You can
Yeah, I
hear
can
me,
hear you
right,
fine.
Gary? Okay. So I really don't care. Gary can hear me. I'm just talking
Yeah.
to Gary. What others can hear, I don't give a shit. Yeah, but it's funny, man, to look at it and you go like between the world events, between what kind of training people choose, and then it gets even funnier between what kind of music they listen to, be what you know what I mean, and you kind of go like, are these all little things that actually directly flow from general
Yeah,
intelligence?
I think it's something about how
And
they're what makes them tick. Um,
yeah,
and then they just I, it all everyone kind of filters into the same general category because they're smart. I mean, that's how I view it.
yeah. Yeah, and I like it, man, because in my classes I really don't have now to spend almost any time of dealing with
Yep.
idiots. It's kind of great because you dive straight into a fucking meat, and you don't have to deal with that. And I go like, I think the happiest thing that I'm happy about is that general intelligence, and I can only speak for myself, of people that come to my classes is, from what I have observed, is significantly above average in this industry.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It sounds elitist. It sounds elitist, you know what I mean? But I'm like, it's undeniable.
Yeah, that I absolutely feel the same way. Having taught for other people that had different priorities for they're better businessmen than me and wanted more people, more clients to pay more money to expand and make the company bigger and that kind of thing. Uh, Having a smaller clientele now, and they seem to be, like you said, to sound elitist, smarter than the average dudes coming to classes. It's great. Like maybe there's a better way to make money than catering to smart folks, but I'm not interested.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Gary, like we don't have problem actually creating and maintaining over long periods of time genuine friendships with our students.
Correct.
Which is also not very usual in the
No,
industry.
there's a lot of. It's weird. We're here saying that we're elitist because we say our students are smarter, and most of the industry acts very elitist and they don't want to have a connection with their students.
I mean, dude, when we do training at your place, it's not only instructors that stay at
Yeah.
your house. Some of the dudes that sleep on the couch
Yep.
are students.
Yeah. Like my house would get packed full of people, half of them students and some instructors. Uh, and
Yeah.
I've had other instructor types in the training industry question like the intelligence of like, where is it wise to let your be that close to your students? And I was like, I think so. I mean, they're free to do whatever they want, but like that's building my network of people, my clan, my whatever people want to call it, my tribe. That's how you do that. Uh,
The thing about it is that it's also, it's a natural, healthy human connection that's not only based on them spending money and you teaching the material. It goes deeper. It has more
yep.
than that. There's loyalty to each other as humans because we get to know each other. We talk about different topics, and there is no like, sitting at Gary's house and shit like that when we're sharing some drinks. God be my witness, but bunch of students there and all that stuff, and there is no like separation of students who just shut up and listen. Only Gary, Sonny, and I don't know, Jay. Only they have a voice to speak here,
Yeah.
right? No, it's like a round table. Everyone is the
Yep.
fucking same.
And I love that part. Like, I'd be happy if we just did that part. However, there's no money to be made there, so we have to do the other part too.
Yeah, indeed. I told a number of my students, I'm like, you know what? If some magic happened and I don't know, I hit a fucking, $500 million lottery, I think I would still charge for classes the same amount that I charge now. But then after the guy spends like $5,000 on my classes or whatnot, I like anonymously would buy him a fucking gift, a rifle or something.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's interesting. Well, before we move any further, do you have any things that you wanna, you know, if you have any classes coming up or
Um.
whatnot, or anything? I know you're busy with your
Yep.
new
Yep.
building,
That's the
the bag, but
construction's cut into a bunch of my time. Got a couple pistol classes coming up weekend after next, and I'm hosting a bunch of cool guys out here at the end of July and beginning of August. So I'm opening the calendar right now to make sure I'm not missing something because I did not come prepared. So yeah,
I'm one of
one of
those
those
cool
cool
guys. Yeah.
guys. Yep. We got you're coming out for a bunch of stuff, a couple weeks, like over the course of 2 separate weeks. And Tom Hollaby is going to be out here for 2 classes back to back at the right after that, and then like a week off. And Zach Bush is coming out for an active shooter class, and then my stuff picks up pretty heavy back at the end of August. So mostly, I've made myself more free in the summer by inviting all my friends to come out and teach.
Yeah, it's been noticed. It's been noticed.
Well, and I figure it's
Uh,
hot in Texas in July and August, so you should come north and enjoy moderately cooler weather.
yes, it's still warm. It's still getting the state of Pennsylvania there in July and August. Here in East freaking Texas because this shit here is brutal. It's brutal. I actually, as we're talking now, I'm not gonna start taking shit off or whatnot, but I got, I guess you can refer to that as a sun poisoning because I spent 6 hours outside working a few days ago, and I took off the shirt, to get some suntan, and
Yep.
so now my whole back is kind of like in the small blisters, and it's gonna be peeling off, so it feels great. And yeah, for 2 days I was like non-functioning, dude. Like really, really bad, really bad.
I have been
So
there. It's been a few years since I got that bad where I needed IVs and whatnot to carry on. But I feel your pain.
yeah, so out here I don't have much classes. I mean, I have access now to indoor facilities, so we're gonna do some combatives classes there. But after that, I'm taking off. I'm going to Ohio, to Wisconsin, and then back to and Pennsylvania, and so yeah. I don't think I have any classes back here as far as outdoor classes until end of September because I'm just not that freaking crazy.
But you're the crazy Russian. I read it on the internet.
Yeah, but I'm older crazy Russian.
We'll just have to make up for it in the cooler weather. Be extra crazy then. Ooh. From my perspective, it looks like Sunny has frozen. Oh, now the audio is poor on my end. I don't I don't know if everybody else is hearing it, but I'm getting just a couple of syllables of noise. You froze for a second. When you came back, the audio was dipped. And you seem to be frozen again. Oh, you unfroze. No good on the sound. Probably Mossad. I see your mouth moving. Can you guys hear me, or is it just Sunny? So, like, if you're, oh, it's just me all by myself now. All right, new gospel violence podcast topic's gonna be how great Red Dawn was as the best documentary ever filmed by mankind. That's what happens when you hand me the reins. Goes south fast. Uh, I would talk about something like how much cooler ARs are than AKs or some dumbass shit than that, but I'd rather talk about movies. Which, weirdly enough, oftentimes earlier, Sonny referenced that sitting around my dining room table with a pile of students and a couple of badass instructors and me, and having those conversations. And many times it was about music and movies and not about what's the best knife to slay North Korean guards in the middle of the night, or any kind of weird shit like that.
Yeah, for a while there, man, we lost the sound. Can you hear me okay, Gary?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Okay, for a little while there's something happened with the sound. Folks, let us know if we are back the good way, as far as I know that me and Gary kind of switch places on the screen. Right. Now it looks like Gary is hosting me on his shit, you know? But
Well,
that's okay.
it almost looks the same in the background anyway.
I know, right? And we use the same software from what I understand, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
While you were gone, we started talking movies.
Oh.
I think the crowd agrees that Red Dawn was the best documentary filmed. But beyond that, we didn't get to go much further before you popped back in.
Yeah, well, now that I'm popped back in, Red Dawn is like the shittiest sci-fi movie ever created. See, so me and Gary can have a adult disagreement about things that can be pretty freaking radical, but we don't call each other names yet. I mean, in person we call each other names, but yeah, that's separate.
There are times I even just text Sonny out of the blue and be like, "Bro, I was listening to Tool, and I didn't even turn it off."
I know.
And I don't even dislike Tool. I just kind of play that up for your benefit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me and Gary also happen to like more than I was expecting. And Gary says more than he expected, the Sleep Token, which a lot of purists of heavy metal music, they go like, that's gay. They not this and that, and I go like, okay, if you want to stay within something framed to satisfy your Puritan roots, be my guest. Be my guest. But I think it's pretty dope. I think it's pretty
The first time I heard it, I looked over at the radio like, what is that? And I kind of put a little check note like, interesting. And then the next time I was like, all right, I got to go look at them, because that's twice I've heard it and went, this is worth exploring. So somewhere on my phone, my Luddite experiences here, I look at my Sirius in the car and I go, I got to remember that band. So I take my phone out, I take a picture of the display that shows what band is playing, so that I know what to go look up when I get home. Uh,
Yeah. I was
not
kind of dwelling in Sleep Token for a couple of years. Every now and then I would listen to them, you know, but I never listened to them at like a high volume with a high quality.
Yep.
And I'd say within the past month, I have a couple occasions during the long trip, you know, and I would put some of their stuff, some older and then some very new stuff, and turn up the volume and kind of focus in on actually hearing. And then I did a little reading of their lyrics and interpretations, and then looked at some things as far as their like 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 technically how good they are, specifically the drummer, the vocalist, and all that. And I go like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, these guys can fucking play. These guys
Yeah.
can play.
Yeah. Each listen, I'm impressed. And I was like, huh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never would have saw that coming. Like, I wouldn't have guessed that I
yeah. You
would
know, for me
appreciate them.
also, for me also being a Christian, because they've been accused of being Satanists and all that stuff because of their masks and all that. I was like, I wasn't thinking about it. To me, it's like, you know, I'll explore that where it goes, what it is later. But then when I looked at things, I go like, okay, that doesn't bother me because that's not what they are. That's a separate thing, you know. But strictly as a acuity, as the ability as a musicians, and being able to, you know, like things that we do in our arena, right? We don't stay within strictly drawn lines of a fucking performance shooting or tactical ninjas, right? We
Yep.
mix things up, we do shit, and I go like, I don't think we should be afraid to do so. But apparently, the purists they go like, that's betraying the style.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
well,
nod my head and I'm like, yep, sure. We'll call it whatever you want, man. And I did not, I personally didn't get any comments about the religious aspect, because I don't think anyone that knows me figured I would
yeah,
care.
yeah,
But I saw it on yours, and I was like, man, I didn't pay attention to the lyrics enough to like see what they were talking about. Um, and then somebody said, oh well, whatever it's how one of your commenters explained it, was like they look at something as the highest power. And I was like, oh, so they're not out there saying like, fuck Jesus. It's just they have this other fantasy thing going on. I'm like, you all ever watch Star Wars? Like, Jesus ain't in that either. They have a whole different
yeah,
religion, and we
right.
all suspend disbelief long enough to watch it and go, what a good story. And so I was baffled by some people's take on that. That I was like, do you only want to listen to like Skillet, like a band that just sings about God and how great he is? I mean, okay, but it's very limiting in what you can talk about in your
Yeah,
lyrics. That's all you want
and
to hear.
at the same time, I would wager that bunch of these dudes that say those comments, they were sitting through all 6 seasons of fucking you know, some kind of a dragon shit that certainly is
Yep.
very, you know, and you kind of go like, all right, dude, so do you really need to posture? For one, you don't really know. Okay. Two, why do you think you should come out as this holier than thou thing while you may not even know if he's using sleep, you know, apparently, which is the god that they use is sleep, and the singer is a vessel, you know, and I go like, because a lot of things that I did read in their lyrics, it is kind of correlation between not just Christianity, but overall faiths as far as what's good, what's bad. You know what I mean? And he intermingles it with personal relationships and you know and all the other things. And I go like, all right, dude is exploring shit, right? It does not necessarily meshes perfectly or even maybe closely with the doctrine of my church of orthodoxy, but I'm not in the place to declare an enemy of mine a Satanist and the spawn of the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when that shit happens. That's where you kind of go like, dude, because I'll bet you if he was not, you know, in talking about that area or in that field, he would look at what me and you do on the shooting range, and we would be the most blasphemous guys because we're way outside of the framework of, I don't know, Colonel Cooper,
Yep.
right?
You've never done even a bill drill in any of your classes.
I know. I mean, shit. The first time in my life, timer was present on my range when Andrew was here. So, listen, Gary, I'm not gonna hold you very long. I appreciate you taking time and coming on, man.
It was my pleasure, as
It's
always.
For me, it's always good and refreshing to find out that I'm not the only idiot, and I'm not a spawn of Adolf Hitler who wants to eliminate all the Jewish people of the face of the earth. But not having balls to talk about things just because of history or because of what powers that be tell us that we should not criticize. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's not in my blood, man. It's not.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I
Well,
appreciate you
I
being that
think
way.
we figured that out, and that probably a lot of people figured it out when, like, the night that we launched some bombs, I went full send on the hate train and didn't check to see with anybody where anyone else stood on it.
Yeah.
So we're definitely of the same cut from the same cloth there. Of well, I'm going to say my piece, and we'll figure out where the pieces fall later.
Yeah, and it's at the same time it's sad and funny, and I think good that we find out that people that claim to be our friends, I mean, all of a sudden we're not friends because we have difference of opinion about one or two or six topics. Doesn't matter.
And
Like
they're
me
not
and
even like
Gary, we
relevant
know.
topics.
Yeah, like me and Gary, we know on absolutely opposite sides of religion and faith, on opposite sides, right? And I go to this ungodly man's house because he invites me, and him and his wife are generous enough to allow me to stay there, which saves me money. And people would go like, "Why would you do that if he's not a man of God?" And I go like, first of all, as a man of God, I am not in the position to be the judge. He's the one and only ultimate judge, not me. You know, and second is, you know, it's even, as a follower of that dude, as my friend Bart says, the carpenter named Jesus, uh, he approached a lot of people that were very far from what he preached, and extended his hand and all that. And I'm like, so some people ask me, they go like, so do you think that you'll be able to convert Gary? I'm like, I'm not even fucking attempting it. I don't think
Yep.
Gary is looking for conversion, and I'm not pretending to be a converter. Gary is a friend. We have a lot of great conversations, a lot of good time in training. We have open discussions. I enjoy the intellectual challenge. I enjoyed the friendship. I enjoyed the way he treats his students and other people, and that's good enough for me. We don't have to agree on everything.
I we agree.
There you go. See, we agree on those things. All right. So, folks, tremisdynamics.com is Gary's website. If you're looking for training, especially if you are in Pennsylvania or somewhere around there or travel, there are number of offerings. Gary teaches a number of different classes. He has been here at my range, taught a class. I watched it.
Yep.
It's good. It's good. Uh, you know, uh, Check out what Gary has to offer. Go train. There's plenty to learn. Uh, Training architecture and his philosophy as far as training is not stringent within some kind of a confines of a fucking unholy gospel by this or that. It is experimental. It is open architecture, and it is for people that do have functioning brains, which to me is right away puts it into elite level of training as far as what this industry has to offer. So tremisdynamics.com. I will be in Pennsylvania at the end of July teaching Force on Force class in Scranton and then a K class in Mount Carmel.
Yep.
So you can find that information on my website. And yet again, Gary, I appreciate you being here, brother. And
Thanks for the invite.
we will talk soon, my man.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, Gary, take care.
Take it easy.
All right, everybody. So that was Gary Marr joining us from I will be in Pennsylvania at the end of July, then beginning of August. Looks like we can see the dates, and I will bring up some new scan and status. So here's the QR code files. That's what July. It's 3 day class that we held in New York City. Now, hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, I know. I will be looking into some of my friends. Send me some suggestions. I'm on the wireless connection here in my office, so I'll be looking into getting some very long cables and making things a little bit better. So here you have the QR code for Violence Censored 1 in Pennsylvania, and I'll bring the other one. And here is the AK class on August 2nd and 3rd. We moved the dates of this class. It was supposed to be August 4th and 5th due to some changes uh, with Gary's stuff going on in Pennsylvania. We moved the date to August 2nd and 3rd, which makes it a weekend class, Saturday, Sunday. So you can scan this or you can go to my website, and that's a 2 day AK class in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania. Again, this will be August 2nd, 3rd. And then prior to that, July 29th, 30th, 31st, we will have a class called Violence Uncensored, which is Force on Force class. Folks, I appreciate you all being here. This was episode number 24 of Let Us Attend from Gospel of Violence podcast. I don't know yet what I'm going to be talking about next Tuesday, or if I'm going to have any guests. I will decide and I will make it known. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, I will be live at 12:30 Central Time, noon 30, Central Time on the Survival Podcast with Jack Spurko. It's a podcast that's been running for many, many, many years. I've known Jack for a number of years as well. He's a fellow Texan. So we've been talking for quite some time about him having me on his podcast, and it's happening tomorrow. So I will be on Jack Spurko's The Survival Podcast tomorrow at 30 minutes past noon. We will be live, and then I believe on July 7th, I will be live on a live stream with Ashigaru Defense with Mr. Tom Holliby. So I will be kind of active on a social media space. Check it out. I hope to see you there. If not there, hope to see you in some training events. And if not that, hope to see you again on our next upcoming episodes of Let Us Attend. This has been episode number 24, coming live to you from Fort Honey Badger in East Texas with yours truly, Sonny Puzikas. Hope you all have a good night, and may God bless.